Okay, so we're talking about the concept of the word ma as one of God's names. And certainly the idea is, the concept behind that is that anything that you see in reality, you ask, Mazen, what is that?
Right.
And the so everything that was brought to Adam, he would give it a name.
Right.
So everything started out as a ma, something that was a little bit undefined, and at that point, Adam could recognize its inner nature and could give it a shame. When we get to things that we have to realize their inner essence and how they're connected to the energy that God imbued into them, then we turn ma, something that is nameless, into something that has shame, something that has a name. And the reality of so I'm gonna go into Haggadah Shel Pesach. Haggadah Shel Pesach, we get to Manishtana, and in fact, what's the concept there? The concept there is, up until this point, the rest of the world didn't necessarily see God manifest completely within the world. And all of a sudden, God is doing major visible miracles to everybody. Everybody sees that God is above nature. And the curtain that sort of the world is hidden behind is that things have a natural order, and yet there is something that is directing that natural order and is above that natural order, is all of a sudden changed in the mind of the world. So the inner nature of things, which was hidden before, now has a revelation of what its origin is. So what happens with the story of Pesach? Ma, everything that's undefined in the world, nishtana, has changed.
Nice.
Everything that you've seen before, which had this unknown characteristic to it, I don't know what an apple is, I don't know why it's there, it's an apple. It came from God. God had a purpose for that, and it's got an inner essence, and if I look to God, then I might better understand what that apple is. Manishtana, everything that I see within the world has in fact changed, because now I have to look back to the point of origin in order to define it again. So the things that I thought I knew before, I no longer know. So that's how ma, undefined things, are an expression of God's name, because you have to look behind ma to see the essence of things. So Avram is asking, Ma titain li, you're going to give me the understanding behind all of these things that I see in the world that I don't know where they're from. Now that I see that you're there behind the curtain, I'm going to be able to look from that vantage point, and I'm going to view each thing as how it came from you, see the way that it flowed down from you, and that's going to give me a different way to define all the things that are going to come to me. So, ma titain li.
But till now, Abraham, way before this, he came to that realization.
He came to the realization that there was that God was there.
Right.
But now he's asking, I want the things that I've got. I get it. I've got money. I've got fame. People want to make me their king, but I don't want to do that. That's not my lot in life. But I want to be able to take all of these things that I got and redefine them. So he's asking, God, show me what these things that I see that I got. I don't know what's going to come from them. I want to know what their future is. I want to know how I'm going to be able to use those to create something that will last throughout all the ages. So he's saying, I've got all these things that now in my mind are undefined. Show me how to define them so that they will make my future. He's asking specifically with this word ma.
It's actually really good, and if I may, just you set up a light bulb in my head. It's a question and answer in the sense of ma titain li. What's the issue? You promised me all these good things. I can't see. In the same way as Ma, I don't understand what this essence is. I can't understand. You're promising me all these blessings and goodness. I don't understand how that is if I have no children. What's it good? Like, where is it? I can't draw the logical connection between all the blessings you promised and I'm an old man with no children. So he doesn't understand. You're promising me these gifts. I don't see them. I can't understand them. Like Ma, it's an undeveloped. I can't understand it. I don't appreciate it. It's what's there.
And just now it's come to my mind that the connection with Yaakov is when Yaakov asks for his sachar from Laban, he also uses the phrase matiten li. What are you going to give me? Im taseli hadavar zeh. If you do this for me, ashuva eretz oncha eshmo. I'll go look after your sheep. If so, this is when he's going to pick out all the ones with spots and so on. So he's clarifying there as well. So so Yaakov uses that phrase as well. Matiten li.
I think the general idea I'm understanding from you is that he's saying, God's saying generally to give you a reward, and he's saying what use is that reward going to be for me?
No, he's saying, I see all the things that I've got, and I don't see how they're going to lead to permanence. I don't see it. I'm looking for something that's going to go throughout the generations, and I've got money, and I've got fame, and I know that those things are fleeting. So I don't understand how to define the things that are in my hand now and turn them into something that's got permanence to them. So that's what he's asking. He's like, he knows what he's got. He's got influence. He's got influence, and he's got influence and possessions.
Oh, you mean
and
the items of his like ego, like his wealth, his this, his that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not just
his wealth, his fame, he's got all those things, and he doesn't understand how they're going to turn into what he really wants from God, which is the ability to have posterity, have the ability to continue forever,
like
have a future.
He puts the point on it and says, I'm going on, I have no children. Like, you promised all these things for me and for the generations, but there are no children.
No generation.
I'm an old man. My wife's an old woman. How is this?
No, but he knows. He has real push. He knows down the road he's going to get children.
Okay, but he doesn't know the route from here to there.
Okay, how to get there?
How to get there with what he's got right at this moment.
He's just asking for the next step.
He's asking what's the next step.
Connect the two ends.
He's asking given where I am right now, what's the next step? Right? He's come up to God, and he's almost challenging and saying, I don't get it. I got all of this. I just won a miraculous war.
Okay.
I survived something that I shouldn't have survived. But what's the next step? What if? Mm-hmm.
Especially because he opens the pasuk with he's all alone, or the pasuk before, like he's mamash. He's just alone. Period. With whatever he has, he's still alone. And that we have the psik after like that's a hard stop. That's a hard wall going forward.
There's one word of that whole thing that's sticking out to me, which
Yep.
is the reward. If he's saying, God keeps saying to him, I'm going to give you this vast reward. And he's saying, what can you possibly ever give me?
Right. What could
you possibly ever give me? He's saying, like, it's like as if, for example, like just now, right before I walked in, I said to my nephew, if you do this Parsha, if you study these pages, I'll give you a certain amount of money. And so he said to me, he just texted me back, I don't need the money, I don't need you to give me that money, I just want to read the Parsha. So I feel like he's saying, wow.
How old is he?
He's 16, but I'm saying that's what he's saying. That's what everyone's saying, is that what could you possibly give me? Like he's saying, I just want to be there for you, I don't really need the reward. That's how when I read the Hebrew, that's what I got. You see see what I'm saying? Because
Well,
yes,
what
but
could
it-
you possibly give me? What could you possibly give
I mean, I
me?
have enough.
But that might be the question of lama.
He
or
said, I mean,
lema.
well, that's already,
Mati
I'm
said-
lonely, I'm
Already is-
lonely. Well, Ben,
No, he said, Mati, tell me, what could you possibly give me?
No, but you have, but he's saying to finish the pasuk with
Right,
the
no,
second
so
part.
Okay, I'm
because
lonely.
when lone, as one translation or as the tradition translated, he's alone in the sense that he has no children. Ari is how he describes
Yeah.
someone who has, and he has
No,
no
but he
children.
knows.
He knows
Avraham
what?
Avinu.
So?
What do you mean he knows he's going to have children?
He knows, in other words,
He knows he's been promised, well.
he knows what he got in the past, and he knows that it's something. He knows he's full of blessings, and he appreciates it. Thank you, God. He also knows that at some point in the future, there's this great path that Kosh Baruch Hu has promised for the children. But there's a valley between those 2 points, and you're saying, how did you cross that valley? Like he's saying, I don't, as Jeff is saying, I don't understand this part. This is an undefined piece. I don't know how to get there from here.
Okay, fine.
But no, she's saying, I think he's showing sort of a lack of amunah because God did promise him children.
No, it's
He
not
doesn't-
but
enough
it's
because
not-
we also are responsible for taking our steps. You know,
But he took it. Oh, this is before. Okay, whatever. Okay.
So it goes a little deeper. It goes to the point of we see at the end of sort of the paragraph that we're reading now that God tells Avram to look up at the stars, and he says Koye Azarecha, and Avram vehemin b'Hashem. Avram believes God when he tells him this. Vayachsheveha lo tzedakah. God thinks that this is going to be something that is to Avram's merit that he believed. So the Midrash tells us that. What does Avram do when he looks into the stars? So if you think of the concept of physics is looking for something called the grand unified theory. We could plug everything into one equation and we could solve it. We would be able to figure out what would happen 10 years, 100 years, and 500 years from now. So the concept of looking into mazalot, looking into the stars, is looking at the nature of the universe. And supposedly Avram was able to look at the name Avram and look at the fate of what would come down to someone named Avram and realize that Avram was someone who was barren, somebody who was not going to have any children, who was going to die childless. So Avram had to look into the stars, had to look into the nature of what the universe would give someone named Avram, and he realized that that is a person who is not going to have children. God tells him, look at the stars, your children are going to be like that. Look at the way that nature is, and you're going to be outside of nature. You are promised something that is above nature, something that the nature of Avram wouldn't get.
Okay, but how does that connect with the idea of what you're just
So that connects with the idea here that Avram is looking at what he's got and he can't figure out the next step.
How to get the kids.
How to get the kids when he's Avram. He's the person who's not going to have kids.
Oh, so like he's
So
stuck
God
in
is-
his path, like he's stuck in Avram instead of looking into Abraham. He's stuck into seeing that vision, basically. He can't look into the next vision of the
So
next
he
step.
Well,
no,
he hasn't
it's not a
changed
question of
He's stuck, he
moving
doesn't
into
know
the
where to
next
go
vision.
now.
It's a question of he's been given a new realization now,
Okay.
and he's trying to deal with that realization that there are things that are lemala me'ateva, that there are things that are above what nature can give you.
Okay.
And that's the concept that God is about to is giving him in this paragraph here. That he's starting to learn that there's lemala me'ateva, but right now he's still stuck in it. He's still stuck in the teva. Mati tein li. I got all of these things. I see where they are. I see what they come, but I don't know how to turn them into something that's above and beyond what nature would define for me. So we're gonna sort of play with that concept throughout this entire paragraph and through Brit Ben Avtarim.
Yeah, to be Ben Avtarim is in and of itself.
And I think we're going to move on.
Anochi, I think.
Ve'anochi, number 6, and I am with the tipcha. There's a backwards focus note with a slight pause afterwards. So it's going to go back to Mati Tein Li. and it's going to close the thought, together with any concomitant achievements, I am hopeless, and I am without an actual accomplishment in my life, in spite of past glorious events, as referred backwards by the directional shape of the reading mark. So Avram is looking back, and again, with the thought that I've achieved all of this, and I don't see posterity in it. I don't see that it's going to lead to a future. And we have an alternate translation. My principles are short of being perpetuated, and I am of the 10 Commandments, together with the Torah, are equally obstructed from reaching their goal. Ve'anochi, so and I am, so we've got that anochi, that again word that begins the Aseret HaDibrot in there. So even when I see that there's a spiritual beginning to the world, I don't see how what I've done up until now is going to allow me to access what I need to access to get to the next step. Holech, walking, with a munach, so this is sharply demarcated from what's come from before and moving forward. Just as I am walking without achieving my goal, so is the Torah prevented from attaining its objectives for which it was designed, as suggested by the shape of the reading mark. So Avram is saying that I'm going forward from this point with everything that I've got, and with the lessons that I've learned of God being able to give spirituality to the world. But again, I don't know how to define that into something that's going to allow me to achieve who I'm supposed to be. Ariri, lonely. And again, that's...
Sorry, to go back, 7, what is the...
It's a munach. So, straight line down, line across the bottom. Sorry, the print is not great, but in any case, that's what the note is. So again, sharply separated and moving forward from there. Ariri, and again, that's an interesting translation to Ariri.
Yeah,
Usually translated as barren, and also comes from the root of Therefore, being lonely and unable to, so this has, the stabilizing etnachta, so this is a note that has a very stable base with something looking upwards from it, so we're looking for stability in this world. Therefore, being, in this word, therefore being lonely and unable to prepare a successor, the Torah would be useless if it did not meet the people who shall accept it and introduce its teachings into practical life, as expressed by the stabilizing shape of the reading mark. So if I receive all of this wisdom and knowledge, but it doesn't get passed on, then again, what use was it to give it just to me if I don't see somebody who's going to take it over from me? Uven Meshek, and administrator, again with the munach, so sharply demarcated and moving forward from there on. At present, I have nobody else closer than my servant and administrator who cannot be expected to perpetuate my ideas properly, as specified by the shape of the reading mark. So my commitment to what you've given me is certainly different from what Eliezer is going to have in terms of commitment to it. So he's separated out from the way that I am committed to it, and the way that he would bring it forward would be different from what I would do with it. Beiti, of my house, with the 2 parts katon, 2 dots, one above each other, one higher concept, one lower concept. Number 10, although he is efficiently handling the affairs of my house, ideologically he is not fit to be my successor, as illustrated by the bipartite shape of the reading mark. So while he's while he's a good major domo, he looks after the house, he makes sure that things run properly. He doesn't have the philosophical commitment in order to do with it what it needs to do, to continue much beyond me. Who? He. Number 11 with the backwards facing tipcha. This note focuses backwards onto the word before, and pauses slightly afterwards, number 11. Although he is reliable and trustworthy, in fact, he is a complete stranger with regard to the principles of my idea, as depicted by the reverse inclination of the directional shape of the reading mark. So he is focused on the house, he's not focused on the ideas.
But just, wait a minute. I just play
He's
devil's
the son of
advocate.
Nimrod.
Mazel tov. So Amalek comes from, I don't know, I sense some chutzpah on Avram's part. You don't think it's any lack of emunah? Does he really think that God thought that Eliezer was going to be the successor? That's what it implies almost.
Well, he's looking at the reality of the world right now. The reality of the world is this is what it is.
Now.
This is what
But
it
if
is
God
now.
promised it, where's it
I don't. So at this point,
You know, because later on, remember what they say later, when Moshe gets criticized, because Moshe wants to know, show me your ways also. And he says, oh, the Avot were satisfied with El Shaddai. But here it sounds like the Avot weren't satisfied, or not the Avot, Abraham doesn't seem satisfied. Like, where's the big emunah that Abraham showed? If God said you'll have kids, then it's going to come.
But in this moment, he said,
In this moment, but we don't live in the moment. That's the Goyish thing we did. I don't know. Abraham doesn't look good in this light, to me.
and again, this is part of why this paragraph is prefaced with Achar Hadvarim Ha'eleh, which is often something that will start something that's bad.
Right.
So this is a test that Avram has to go through. He has
It
to.
reminds me really, he's sort of mature in at this point, which is okay. It's a growth. Like
He has to grow. He has to
Yosef
see.
also would
He has
get
to
started
see the
maturing.
concept.
I don't think that Avram has to grow.
We all have to. Why not?
No, we're all supposed
He
to
has
keep-
an arc. Everyone has an
He's
arc.
supposed to keep
Study.
growing.
No, he's not. No one's a perfect study.
Abraham?
Yes,
no
Abraham,
one,
yes.
he's human.
We're Bnei Adam. Yosef he became Yosef a study.
I disagree.
Well, too bad.
Jeff, he seems to be spending a lot, well, it's not a lot, but the repetition of the points he's making. He's my servant,
We're not
administrator,
malachim.
he's efficient, but he's not fit to be my successor. He's reliable and trustworthy, but he's a stranger. We don't have any common memories. Like he seems to be,
Mitzvah Hashem, it
What?
shouldn't be Eliezer.
yeah, seems to be spending a lot of time.
But
on
the
the
point
same
that he thought that God thought it was Eliezer, but God.
So again,
Where's the-
it's searching for understanding, right? When
He's really trying to convince himself, I guess. Like
he's trying to
understand it
say
himself,
this is logically where I am,
Mhm.
and I don't understand how I get from here to the next spot.
How do you bridge that valley?
Mhm. Okay.
Right?
So it's really him talking
It's
out loud. trying
he's
to
talking out
figure it
loud
out,
saying
to
this
figure
is
it out.
this is where I am, and I can't figure out how
Where
to
do
get
I
to the next
go?
spot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's
So what do you
The
say
next
then?
section of
He
my
has to
life.
grow. He's not at that point
The
yet.
next chapter of my
He's
life,
putting
where,
the-
where am I going now?
But he can't see the plan, so he's not perfect. I'm not
He's
saying.
not a plant. He doesn't have to grow. He's not like
Mhm.
that. He's
Oh,
got like a little
But life is about
tiny-
growth, not grow physically, like from 5 feet to 6 feet.
Oh, he
I
wants to
know.
move on. He's
Grow
like,
spiritually.
where do I go now? I've done this, now what? What do I do?
What have you done for me lately? That ingrate. I don't know. I'm starting to see another side of it, which is
That's what
good.
he's saying.
We didn't. What's it called? Hagiography. Or, we don't see our tzaddikim as
No,
saints.
I happen to agree with you, but I mean,
That makes
I
it more
think
great.
I think this is a very human moment, because he's still a human. He's saying, God, I don't get it. I mean,
I think
you
he's
give
a
me
lot
a-
better than a human.
What?
I think he's a lot better than a human.
Yeah, but he's made choices.
That gets dangerous then with that. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
You're bordering
So-
on.
So
Because we
no,
don't
no,
believe in
so
saints. We don't have
so
saints. We have real people
so
who are still flawed.
We call him tzaddikim,
I
right?
But they-
I
you're not born a
I'm on-
tzaddik.
Me and Abraham, we're both humans. We're trying to grow. We're trying to go through therapy. We're trying to figure stuff out.
We're trying to
We
grow.
cannot physically or mentally compare ourselves to Abraham. and
I agree. I'm on the page with
The
you.
rabbi says.
He's
Not a rabbi, he's a good doctor.
he's above our level, but that doesn't mean that at the very least this is not an object lesson for us.
He's human.
That whatever level we're at, we need to strive to get to the next level. And
That's why these
Even
that's
the-
why these people,
the-
the
great
patriarchs,
grandfather.
become role models for us. If they were Malachim, if they were without flaw, then we could never relate to them. But we have
Again,
to
but
be
the-
able to relate to their struggles and see the superlative way that they dealt with their
The flaws
trials.
always have to be dealt with on the level of somebody who has much more clarity than we do.
100%.
So
100%.
if there is something that's a question, the question is not as a challenge, but the question is as a point of personal growth, as a point of,
He's questioning God. He's saying, what could you possibly give me?
no, he's
God
on,
keeps saying, I'm going to give you this great reward. The sentence before.
yes,
And then he's saying, what could you ma-ti-ten-li?
Yes.
Ma-ti-ten-li. What could you possibly give
The,
me?
the,
But
the
again,
word
with
possibly
the-
isn't there. Just what were you doing?
Ma-ti-ten-li. What are you going to give me? What are you
Yes.
going to give me?
so
And
so
to-
again, we're trying to define this as, let me understand the things that you've given me and how they're going to be something that I can use to get to the next stage.
Okay, now I see what you're saying. He's saying,
Ah, you
because
came
it
around,
says
you're growing.
here, Arari could also be naked. Right?
Or
Is
it
that
could
al-
be naked, could be cursed, could be
Well,
could
no,
be
that's
bare.
curses with an aleph. Arur.
I made a mistake, air.
Oh, I see it.
Hmm.
What do you mean? I mistake? Error like error in English?
Mistake is an error.
In
Error.
English it's error.
No, but also in Hebrew.
Yeah?
It's almost
No,
like he's
Shia
saying
is
he's
in
nothing
Hebrew.
there.
Also, air is a mistake.
Show
It's
me
almost
where.
like he's saying he's nothing,
it's not.
in a way.
It's not.
Right?
That's John.
So
It's usually
so
arur.
so that's again part of his nature. V'anochi afar va'efer. He recognizes that he in and of itself doesn't necessarily have any ego that forces his will upon anybody else. He's just a recognizer of truth, and he feels this deep innate need to pass it on, and he doesn't want the truth to go away with him. And he knows that he's going to have ulazaracha adolam, that it's going to go to his progeny forever, but he doesn't know the way from here to there. Just because you've got through a Hakodesh doesn't mean that you see every moment in your life and you know what you're going to do tomorrow.
So how's he different from what I asked about later when Moshe is criticized? Because he wants to see God's whole plan. He's the same as Moshe in this case. He doesn't understand God's plan. And you know what I'm talking about? What I'm referring to, right?
That's why the
With the El Shaddai.
goes
No, when
down,
Moshe is criticized for not being like the Avot, he says by them El Shaddai was enough. Whatever they told the Avot, that was enough for them. They still had their emunah. But it doesn't sound like it. He sounds just like Moshe. I want to know more. I don't see how this is. After remember what happened to Moshe with the kash
Not
and
having
everything, the
not
children.
having understanding and questioning and challenging are two different things.
What, not understanding and challenging. So what is he doing? Challenging or not understanding?
He's not understanding.
And Moshe
So-
was challenged. How do you see that? Moshe also said he doesn't understand.
Right?
How's this going to lead? It's making it worse for the Jews. Remember after the straw. It sounds very similar. I don't see such a difference.
But again,
What?
it's not so both things could be said in two different ways. They could be saying as, God, you're wrong. I've got all the wrong things. I've got money and wealth, and what do I need with money and wealth? So he could be challenging here and saying, God, you're like, I've got the wrong things. You're
I'm not
straight.
saying- so you're saying
Or
nothing, no,
so he's not
no,
saying
no, I'm
that.
not saying that
He's
either.
saying that I need understanding.
Moshe
and
didn't say that either. How does Moshe challenge? He challenged with some. let's say.
Moshe challenges exactly the same way. He says
The same way, so he's no different. That's what I'm
but
saying.
it's not a challenge. It's a
Right, so they're both not
striving.
challenging.
It's a
That's what I'm
striving
saying. They're
for
both
understanding.
not challenging. How are they different, Moshe and Avram? Because later the Torah says, Hashem says to Moshe, no, you're different than Avram. They had bigger emunah. But I don't
Right.
see it. You're saying, you just said now they're saying the same thing. So why is Avram greater than Moshe in this aspect? When it sounds like you just said
We
the
never.
same thing.
Why do we say that Avram is greater than Moshe? We don't.
Later on in Parshat, but yes, that's I just said.
But again,
El
Moshe.
Shaddai, that it was good enough for them just
But
They
Moshe.
didn't have to see the whole pledge.
But again, Moshe's trying to understand his place in things, just as Avram's trying to understand his place in things.
That's what right. So they're no
So-
different. That's
no,
what
no,
I'm
no,
saying.
no, no. You're taking a very broad concept, and you're trying to say that they're no different.
You just said they're no different.
No, no, no. I'm saying that they both have the same general goal.
Yeah. Okay. So how do they differ?
The difference is how much of their own personal ego and agenda is
Moshe
put.
was not be called Ben
So
Adam. I don't know.
that's the answer there is
Yeah.
Moshe is trying to struggle with the fact that before with the minimal amount of ego that Avram has, he struggled. Now I'm struggling, and I'm less than him. So Moshe is always seen as a level above every other Navi, every other person who's received Nevuah.
But with the thing I quoted from when we had with Moshe, Hashem is saying to Moshe, no, you're not on the level of, in this case, you're not.